What's up, everybody? We got to talk about it. The big news in Feverland, as many, including me, speculated or assumed or maybe thought was possible for other reasons. Stephanie White is the official head coach of the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark's second season will feature a new head coach. Nalissa Smith and Lexi Hall, drafted in 2022, will now be seeing their fourth coach with the Fever, presuming either or both of them are on the team next year. Lots of turnover, but I get why the Fever are doing this one, and this is why they would make a coach change. This is one of the few available candidates that makes sense to me to do this string of transactions by the Fever, who moved on from Christy Sides last Sunday. 5 days later, first of the month, fourth or fifth day of Amber Cox, the new GM's tenure, running the team or partially running the team. A new head coach for the Fever in Stephanie White. If you watched my last video breaking down her and her fit and why she was such a good fit with the Fever, to me, beyond her coaching skills, which we'll get to in a second, she's just a natural candidate with ties to the state and the new leadership regime here in Indiana, right? Originally played for Purdue, and then 5 years with the Fever, only playing 4 of them because of an injury. Assistant coach at Ball State to break into coaching. That's in Muncie, Indiana, right? A couple years in other colleges and with this guy. Then back to the Fever as an assistant, and that connection is kind of twofold, right? When she played for the Fever, Kelly Krauskopf, the current president of basketball operations for the Fever, just started this month, was the president of the team back then, the inaugural president of the Fever, and was for, over a decade and a half. And then Steph White came back with Krauskopf still there to be an assistant under Lynn Dunn in the early 2010s, when Lynn Dunn was the head coach of the Fever. When they won their championship, Stephanie White was an assistant with the franchise. Oh, by the way, when Stephanie White met Lynn Dunn? When she played for her at Purdue, right? These ties are endless. Lynn Dunn now a senior advisor, Krauskopf in charge, and of course Stephanie White eventually became associate head coach before Dunn retired, and then head coach after Dunn retired, led the Fever to the finals in 2015. So her resume is obviously exceptional. Former player, excellent coach in the college and pro level, right? Had her long stint at Vanderbilt between WNBA stints, has done well with the Connecticut Sun the last 2 years, having them in the second round of the playoffs both years, one game from the finals this year. Her resume speaks for itself, and I think her direct ties to Dunn, to Krauskopf, even Amber Cox, who was with the new Fever GM, who was with the Sun just before White got there, the connections are endless, right? And it makes it such a natural fit. If all these people who know Stephanie White really well from previous experience say, yes, that is who should coach this team, who is anyone to say that they're wrong, right? Especially when a lot, if not all of those people who, when they overlapped with White before, had a lot of success in those moments. Even beyond any specifics about what she is as a coach, what the current Fever need from her, that alone, I think, should give a lot of people confidence that this is a smart or at least defensible move from Indiana. Now, that is not the end of the story, because the Fever are doing this because they are in a new shape of team. A lot of times when a new front office comes in, they shake things up, right? They want their own coach. They kind of shape the team in their own image. And this is certainly part of that. But I think there's another part of this, which is, I think Christy Sides could have done this, but I think Stephanie White has proven to do this. They are now not building. They went fast, right? They were building for a long time. When Lynn Dunn came, they won 5 games in the first season, and they were terrible the 2 years before that. They were building. They won the lottery twice. They have Aaliyah Boston. They have Caitlin Clark. If they core Kelsey Mitchell, they will almost certainly have her next year, pending free agency. There's an expansion draft. There's lots of stuff still to change things around for this Fever team. But, they have that locked up. They have rebuilt to having 3 All-Stars on the team. They had no All-Stars before Kelsey Mitchell's appearance in 2023. With Aaliyah Boston, they have 3 now, including some good role players. Temi Fagbenle, Lexi Hall, to name a few. There's still some sorting out to do with the roster. We can talk about that later in this offseason. But that is set. The core is set. The front office has shifted. That's now set. And now a coaching staff set. All of that together is showing me that they feel like they're done building. They are ready to run, compete every year, which is exceptional considering their best player is going into her second season. But Caitlin Clark was one of the best 5 players in the league last year. Look at the MVP voting. Look at the awards voting. I was a voter this year. I had Caitlin Clark on first team All-W and in top 5 in MVP voting, right? She deserved that. She was that good. When you have a player that good, even if it was her 10th year in the league, if you had a player that good, your expectation should be to win. It was her first year in the league, which is just bananas. Aaliyah Boston started slow last year. So did Caitlin. Once they got going, that team was very good, right? We all saw it. They were 1-8. They were 1-8 to start the season. And they finished 500, which everybody can do math, and tell you that they finished 19-12 over their last 31 games. That's very good. You can extrapolate. That's almost winning 2 out of every 3 games. Like over the course of a full season, that's almost in that 4 or 5 seed range. It would have been there this year. They're that good now. That is in the first season of Caitlin Clark and the second season of Aaliyah Boston. Not counting any draft picks they add, not counting growth from any of the other young players, not counting any bumps that just come from internal development, even of veterans. Then you add in a proven winning coach. It's time to win in Indiana. That is the thing. And if they felt like they could get a better coach to do that, then they should have. And Stephanie White's proven that she can. She got the Fever to the finals already in 2015. She was very close with the Sun these last 2 years. So just resume and Fever timing alone, another reason that Stephanie White's a great hire. The last thing. Now, I would caution people a little on this, but this point will come up, and it should. The Sun were a good defensive team already with Curt Miller, made the finals, right? No doubt. They had John Quell back then. They didn't have John Quell with Stephanie White. That's important to context, but they were already a good defensive team. They were still a good defensive team post John Quell Jones with Stephanie White as the head coach. Second in defensive rating 2 years ago, first this past season. In fact, that's part of why I thought the Sun were the worst matchup for the Fever in the first round. Very few people know that, but I said that on Radio Hits. I think I said it on this channel. I thought they would have done better against Minnesota or Vegas than Connecticut. And it doesn't matter if I was right or wrong. That's just reality, right? They were a really good defensive team. And Stephanie White was a part of that. They also had good personnel, right? They were a good defensive team before she got there. So on one hand, you will hear this argument a lot, and I will make it myself because I think it's true. She's a good defensive coach. The Fever had good defensive personnel when she was here before. They were a good defensive team then. If she can get this team to defend, that will go a long way in them being really good, right? Now, that said, they had good defensive personnel in Connecticut before her, and she kept them good. The Fever do not have as good a defensive personnel. They have some good defensive players, certainly, but not as many as the Sun have right now, or not enough to really think they'll be a top-end defensive team. So this will be a revealing year of how good of a defensive coach she is. But even getting the Fever to, I'll make this number up in my head, but you might come up with a different number. Even if the Fever finish 6th in defensive rating this coming season, they're probably going to be a top 2 offense, at least top 3 at worst, right? With Caitlin on the team. That's a very good team. That's an exceptional team. That is what her headlining job on the court needs to be. And if she can do it, which she has before with 2 different teams that, again, had good defensive talent, but she still did it. I've seen coaches have good defensive talent and not do a good job making a good defensive team out of it, right? If she can do it with the Fever, that would be a home run for this team. A home run hire. If they're 7th or better on defense this year, they'll be one of the best 4 teams in the WNBA, no doubt. And that is Stephanie White's mission. So, a good defensive coach, proven track record, connections to people in important positions who want this team to be a winner now, who think this is the right coach to do that. Yeah, that's a person you make this kind of coaching change for. It's a new month. It's a new front office. It's a new coaching staff. It is sort of a new era of Fever basketball. They had one era from 2022 to this past year, to me, of the growth era, and now they have a new era of the winning era, the Steph White era. The Caitlin era already started. I don't want to do too many narrative, corny things, but that's it. That is my quicker thoughts on Stephanie White, the head coach of the Fever. She will be introduced next Monday with a press conference. I'll upload that here as well for you guys to see, and we probably will get to talk to Amber Cox, the new GM, for the first time that day. I'm curious how that all will be set up and what those experiences will look like. In the meantime, 2 Pacers games. Taylor Swift is in Indy. Things are popping here in the Circle City. Should be fun, but lots coming here on this move. But I think it makes a lot of sense for the Fever to do it, even though, again, I was higher on Christy Sides than most of the fan base. But I think this does make sense. I think the connections make it a strong move. I think her resume makes it a strong move. I think her own desire to be here, which has been reported by Scott Agnes in Fieldhouse Files, and then again when Stephanie White was on ESPN's NBA Today NBA show earlier today, show why this happened, show what this is heading to. I'm looking forward to seeing it. We'll hear from her Monday with more on her thoughts on the team, on what her job's going to be, and many more things. I'll be there to share it with you guys. Thanks for watching. See you soon.